The man who revolutionized gospel music for a generation, Kirk Franklin, has now acknowledged something few anticipated: regret. Franklin has spoken out about the suffering it caused, not just for himself, but also for those closest to him. Following years of headlines about heated disputes, leaked tapes, and a family war that unfolded in front of millions. You will be astounded by what he disclosed, since there is much more to this public family drama than anyone could have predicted. Welcome back to the channel where we unearth the most significant tidbits of information, scandals, and hidden realities influencing the gospel music and celebrity culture industries. The subject of today dives right into the life of Kirk Franklin, one of the biggest names in gospel. With his music, his testimony, and his openness, Kirk, who is regarded as the founder of urban gospel, has motivated millions of people. Despite all of his achievements, one of the most traumatic and well-publicized family dramas in gospel history has cast a shadow over his career. Franklin's tense relationship with his son garnered media attention for years, leading to heated disputes, leaked recordings, and a media frenzy that split followers. Under duress, some defended him as a parent, while others criticized his handling of the matter. Kirk made an effort to maintain his position as a public figure and a parent throughout it all. However, things have now taken an unexpected turn. Franklin has recently acknowledged something he seldom ever discusses in public. "I'm sorry. I regret the way the drama turned out. I regret that it became so widely known, and lament the effect it had on his legacy as a devout man as well as his family." We will dissect everything in this video, what actually took place during those tumultuous years. Franklin's most recent admission, the reactions of gospel industry enthusiasts, and the potential implications of this discovery on his future career. And believe me when I say that most people have never heard of some of the specifics in this article. You won't believe the startling lessons Franklin claims to have learnt, and this confession could forever alter our perception of him. So pay close attention. In order to fully comprehend Kirk Franklin's remorse, we must return to the beginning. His family drama's origins. Franklin appeared to have it all on the surface. Sold-out tours, a career that transformed gospel music, and the admiration of both the mainstream music business and church groups. However, Kirk and his eldest son, Kerryon, were developing a complex relationship behind closed doors. It took some time for the strain to manifest. Franklin has acknowledged that it's never easy to raise kids in the spotlight. Striking a balance between a busy work, ministry responsibilities, and ongoing public scrutiny presented a special set of difficulties for fathers. What began as typical arguments between father and son gradually developed into more serious injuries, miscommunications, animosity, and a lack of trust over time. Most of this was kept secret for a long time. However, all changed in 2021. An explosive audio tape of Kerryon and his father talking on the phone was made public. Fans who were accustomed to viewing Franklin as the polished, devout head of gospel music were taken aback by the leaked clip, which showed him losing his anger and using foul language. Almost immediately, the recording went viral, taking over social media, trending on Twitter, and igniting discussions at various news organizations. It rocked the gospel community. Many of Franklin's ardent fans were taken aback, wondering how a guy who talks so forcefully of faith, forgiveness, and grace could be so cruel to his own son. Others defended him, claiming that the world was only hearing one side of a complex story, that no parent is flawless, and that Franklin was a human. This was the pivotal moment when everyone got interested in Franklin's personal suffering. All of a sudden, his family's drama was no longer limited to private discussions or therapy sessions. Around the world, millions of strangers were analyzing it. Furthermore, there was no turning back once the story was made public. This is the startling element, though, that most people are unaware of. This was not a one-time dispute, as Franklin subsequently disclosed. Despite numerous attempts at reconciliation, therapy sessions, and family gatherings, the conflict had been simmering for years and never appeared to be resolved. The truth was significantly more agonizing and profound, even though many people only saw the viral video. Both father and son were carrying years of hurt, unsaid words, and unresolved conflict by the time the recording came to light. The sound was more than a fleeting moment. The world was never meant to see the window into years of brokenness. This raises the question of how Kirk Franklin reacted when the public's focus shifted to his private life, as his response paved the way for everything that transpired, and, eventually, for the remorse he now bears. The news took off like wildfire as soon as the leaked recording was made public online. Videos of Franklin's irate, uncensored voice became viral on social media, quickly spreading on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. For days, the hashtag Kirk Franklin was trending, and everyone appeared to have an opinion, from casual music enthusiasts to church leaders. Others hurried to his defense, pointing out that parent-child interactions are complicated and that no one should make snap judgments based on a 45-second tape. Some were shocked, asking, how could a gospel icon talk to his child this way? However, it was evident that the incident had thrown one of the biggest names in evangelical music into the middle of a storm that he had not requested. Kirk Franklin was fast to react because he knew he had to. Franklin apologized in public a day after the recording was made public. He didn't sugarcoat the problem in a video posted to his Instagram. He acknowledged that his statements were incorrect, that he lost his temper, and that he wasn't proud of what was recorded in his capacity as a father. You could feel the gravity of the situation on his face, and his tone was solemn, even heavy. This is where things became more tricky, though. Franklin also disclosed that there was more to the story. He clarified that he and Carry-On had been at odds for years and had attempted family therapy, counseling, and other methods to mend the rift. Carry-On had even decided to record their private conversations, he alleged. Discussions without his knowledge, adding to the already damaged trust and creating a sense of betrayal. Franklin's apology elicited a very mixed reaction from the public. Some praised his openness, stating that it required guts to acknowledge his errors in front of millions of people. His apology sounded more like damage control than genuine accountability, according to those who weren't persuaded. For many, the question was not simply whether Franklin had been angry. It concerned whether he was upholding the reputation of a gospel leader who advocated for forgiveness, love, and family harmony. Things became much more heated in the gospel community. Christian influencers, gospel singers, and pastors started to voice their opinions. Franklin was vehemently defended by some, who reminded detractors that spiritual leaders are people with problems just like everyone else. They underlined that raising adult children has additional difficulties, particularly when those youngsters are dealing with emotional difficulties of their own. Others, on the other hand, contended that the episode revealed a more profound hypocrisy in gospel culture, where leaders put on a show but conceal tumultuous, broken realities behind closed doors. Franklin's statements weren't the only thing that sparked criticism. It has to do with his symbolism. Kirk Franklin has represented happiness, harmony, and creativity in gospel music for many years. He broke down barriers and reached audiences that gospel music had never reached before by fusing choir harmonies with hip-hop beats. Fans were shaken when he was captured in a fit of rage, since it seemed to go against the perception they had of him. This is where things become even more intriguing, though. Some leaned in closer, claiming that this moment really made Franklin more relatable, while others turned their backs on him. After all, who hasn't become angry over a contentious family situation? Who hasn't uttered something they later felt bad about? Franklin's frailty served as a reminder to many that even gospel icons are fallible and that faith is about development rather than perfection. However, one apologetic video was not the end of the tale. The public's perception of Kirk and Carry-On's tension remained elevated, and further layers were revealed as more individuals investigated it. In interviews, Carry-On himself started to speak up, giving his version of events and implying that his father's issues extended well beyond that single phone conversation. At that point, the story started to move from a startling viral video to a much more in-depth discussion about generational trauma, family scars, and the unrealistic demands made of public personalities. But before we do, we should examine what Carry-On disclosed in more detail, since what he said would stoke an already blazing fire. Many people believed that the story would end when Kirk Franklin released his video apologies. He had, after all, asked for understanding, acknowledged his mistakes, and described the years of conflict. Karen Franklin, however, wasn't going to take it so lightly. Actually, this family drama took a very different turn after his remark, one that further drew the general public into the Franklin family's personal suffering. Having already established himself as a free spirit with a turbulent history, Carry-On started talking more candidly about his tense connection with his father. He shared snippets of what he called years of emotional neglect and miscommunication with his fans on social media. For him, the audio leak wasn't a singular incident. It was a sign of a pattern that he believed had persisted throughout his life. According to Carry-On's interviews, being the child of a well-known gospel star wasn't as advantageous as people thought. He depicted being enmeshed in the shadow of his father's accomplishments, feeling ignored and unsupported while attempting to define his own identity. Fans started to question more and more as he said, was there a deeper meaning to his remarks, or was this just a son expressing his pain? Carry-On's remarks were particularly powerful since they questioned the widespread perception of Kirk Franklin as the ideal gospel father figure. Franklin's son said he felt detached and abandoned while his father was leading worship, creating recordings that reached the top of the charts and inspiring millions with messages of hope. Fans were unable to ignore the tension caused by this disparity between the public persona and the private life. Carry-On didn't stop there either. Sometimes enigmatic, sometimes painfully straightforward, he started to divulge more personal information. His remarks occasionally alluded to more sinister family secrets, causing viewers to wonder what might actually be going on behind closed doors. And each time he made a new post, it sparked online arguments in which people took sides. Carry-On is believed by some, while Kirk is defended by others. This is when things become even more difficult. In the public's view, Carry-On was more than just a victim. His previous actions frequently sparked suspicion. He had a history of arrests and continued mental health issues according to reports. Some found it difficult to believe his story because of these problems, while others contended that his suffering was being minimized due to his flaws. The family argument evolved into a broader societal discussion as a result of the tension between Kirk's impeccable reputation and Carry-On's damaged persona. The topic of generational trauma came up: how fame can skew even the most intimate relationships and how unresolved pain may be passed down from parents to children. Many viewers began to focus on their own families instead than just the Franklins. Numerous others could connect to the situation of a parent and child trapped in years of strife with wounds that never seemed to heal, according to comments on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. However, this was possibly the most tragic aspect. Instead of speaking to one another directly, Kirk and Carry-On were both sharing their stories via the media. Their dispute was not resolved behind closed doors, rather, it was publicly displayed. Every reaction, post, and interview served as ammo in a conflict that left both sides with wounds. As a result, the gospel community, which had previously stood together in support of Franklin, started to disintegrate even more. While some felt that Carry-On's pleas for assistance were being disregarded, others contended that Kirk was a loving but imperfect parent trying his best. But there was no denying that it got more difficult to distinguish between Kirk Franklin, the parent, and Kirk Franklin, the artist, as this drama developed. The twist that most people didn't anticipate, however, is this. Kirk was being forced to face not only the perception of himself as a father, but also the fact that his actions and regrets will define his legacy, while Carry-On was publicly venting his frustrations. And what followed would demonstrate how widespread this family drama had become, extending beyond the realms of music, religion, and celebrity culture. Kirk Franklin was not the only one affected at home when the family fight broke out in public. It rocked his ministry platform, his reputation, and his career. Franklin had been one of the most renowned and dependable voices in gospel music for many years. He was more than just a performer. He represented perseverance, trust, and optimism. His songs were more than just tunes. They served as lifelines for those in need of encouragement, sermons wrapped in music. Kirk Franklin's reputation as the gospel father figure suffered greatly as a result of the leaked recording and carry-on's charges. Supporters started to wonder if the man they joined in on Sundays was actually exhibiting the morals he advocated. Unsure of how to handle the matter without disturbing their congregations, churches that had previously invited him to play and minister suddenly fell silent. The story also caught the attention of media outlets, as though Franklin were just another Hollywood celebrity featured in a tabloid headline. Mainstream entertainment blogs covered the scandal. It was confusing for fans of gospel music. This wasn't just a famous person going downhill, they were criticizing one of their spiritual leaders. Additionally, Franklin had to fight to defend both his name and his message in a society where appearances can carry just as much weight as the facts. This is where things become fascinating, though. Franklin leaned into openness rather than retreating. He expressed his imperfections, acknowledged the hurt, and underlined that he was still a work in progress in interviews. He didn't portray himself as flawless, and a sizable section of his fan base found resonance in that candor. Many claimed that this increased his authenticity. They argued that perhaps there is hope for the rest of us if Kirk Franklin can own up to his mistakes. Nevertheless, the dispute had a long-lasting impact. His airplay was subtly cut by a few radio stations. He wasn't booked by certain church circles because they were afraid about the negative reaction that would result from supporting someone who was being closely watched. Franklin's most devoted followers stayed with him, but others left. The repercussions extended beyond reputation since the artist and the parent revealed in the widely shared recording could not be reconciled. They also started interacting with Franklin's family, putting his wife Tammy and their other kids in the spotlight they hadn't requested. There were rumors regarding their feelings, whether they agreed with Kirk, and what actually transpired behind closed doors. People started to wonder about the Franklin household, their personal life examined as though they were on a reality program. However, Franklin's career continued to flourish in spite of the criticism. Indeed, he persisted in putting out songs, performing, and even taking home honors. However, his songs' listening habits changed. Now, his family's drama framed every song about forgiveness and every message about grace. This increased the impact of his songs for some. Others began to question whether he was living up to his rhetoric. In the years after the controversy, Kirk Franklin's career was characterized by this dichotomy: criticism on one side and a closer bond on the other. It exposed a truthful but unsettling aspect of celebrity in the gospel world. Although they are just as human as the people they lead, leaders are frequently expected to be flawless. The public outcry, however, was likely not the most unexpected aspect of this period in Franklin's life. It was his own reaction. Because Kirk himself acknowledged something that made everyone take notice, even as the world argued about whether he was a hypocrite or a sympathetic leader. "I'm sorry." He regretted more than just the words that were recorded. He lamented his family's suffering, the years of strife, and the decisions he made as a father. And nobody could have predicted how that acknowledgement would change the subject.